Good afternoon. Today I'm very happy to welcome a really multidisciplinary artist whose work spans music, film, literature, theater, and visual art. I'm very happy to welcome Salvatore Caesar Scordato, or more simply, Caesar. Good morning, sir, and good afternoon.
Good morning,
Uh,
Sherif. Yes, good afternoon.
Well, first, let's begin about your interest into art. How did it start with you, and which kind of art form you started to practice with?
Okay, at 5 years old,
Yes,
5 and a half, I started playing guitar. And it's an interesting story because my mother had a friend down the block from where we grew up.
yes,
And her son was playing guitar, and he was probably 12 years old at the time. He was very talented. Anyway, and my mother would go down to visit her, and I'd be brought along. Obviously, it was 5 and a half, something like that. And this one day, he was playing the guitar,
yes,
which I've never seen before. I didn't have any contact with any of that, except my father played saxophone, but that's another story. But with the guitar, I saw him playing it, and he started playing this song by Elvis
hmm,
called "Hot Dog." I don't know if you know that song. "Hot
yes,
Dog."
yes,
Anyway, so and his fingers were playing so fast. I mean, my eyes popped out of this guy, and he was only 12 years old. He was really great, and that was it. So that immediately, I said, phew. So in a way, Elvis and this kid Tommy spurred on my desire to play guitar. And in fact, from that moment on, I was begging my mom and dad, I want to play guitar. I want to play guitar. Finally, they got me this guitar. It was like a $10 guitar. It was the cheapest guitar you could ever imagine. And I had that guitar for at least 6 years.
yes,
6 years I played with that guitar. And the strings were like this far apart
yes,
from the fret. It
yes,
was like, but it made my fingers very strong. So
yes,
that was the beginning of me playing. And the minute I started playing, I started writing songs.
yes.
It was like
It came to you.
synchronous. It was
Hmm.
just, if I'm going to play, I'm going to write.
Yes,
So that was good. And it's funny about that kid Tommy, because I don't know if you watched Forgotten Savior,
yes,
but it's in the movie where Tommy he got involved with gangsters, when he got a little older, and
yes,
I don't know. And anyway, he ended up getting shot in the head.
yes, yes,
He lived through it. In the movie, I made it, I dramatized it, but he actually lived. But he became like wacky after that. He lost his mind after that.
yes,
But yeah, that's a pretty interesting story about how that happened.
yes.
In
But
any case, okay, I'm going off. I'm going into
no,
tangents.
no. I wanted to ask you, you grew up in New York or another part of the United States?
Brooklyn,
In Brooklyn. Yes,
Brooklyn, New York,
very good.
Canarsie.
Yes, and right now, I want to know, you started to write your own songs and you practice guitar for enough years. Tell me, how did you manage to move like from, let's say, an amateur or like a music fan into, starting your professional career?
Okay, so that's pretty interesting. Uh, Let me tell you this. When I was around, I don't know, I guess 14 or so, you start playing it with people in the area. And it's funny because in Brooklyn, in Canarsie, the, the people I ended up playing with, there was quite a few of them who became very well-known musicians in the world. So, but they would play with me because I was the one who was writing music, you know what I mean? And so not just, of course, we started out performing other people's music, playing around, and stuff like that. But I was always writing. And then a friend of mine uh, got on a plane and went to Florida, and the plane crashed into the Everglades, right? It's a true story. So it affected me so deeply that I wrote my first rock opera about that, Odyssey 401. And in order to produce that, you have to remember back then, there was no home recording. The only home recording they had was a regular stereo tape recorder. That was it. And I wanted to build a studio in my basement and record this opera. So they came out with quadraphonic. I don't know if you remember that. Quadraphonic is two tracks on one side and two tracks on the other. Still basically stereo, but 2 and 2.
Yes.
And what I did was, which was crazy when I think back on it, I went and bought a quadraphonic reel-to-reel, thinking that I could record and make my home studio into a 4-track recording studio. And believe it or not, I went and bought it. It took me weeks of saving up. I paid it off, brought it home. The minute I got it home, I opened it up. I had brand new. I opened it up and I started messing with the wires inside to try and get it to record 4 separate tracks. And believe it or not, I did it. I managed to do that. Then I built a studio and I built a mixing console myself. I used to dream schematics. This is 15-year-old kid. And I'd be dreaming how to hook this thing up and make it work. I did it anyway. I'm trying to make this quick. So I built a studio down the basement. I got all the kids who were musicians in my neighborhood, which they were very talented, to come. And we recorded the rock opera. I took that and brought it to Channel 13 in New York, in Manhattan. And they loved it. So I ended up filming it, videotaping it in Channel 13's studios, 3-camera shoot, me, like 15-year-old kid, directing a 3-camera shoot, never was in a video studio before, got all my friends in there and created Odyssey 401, which Channel 13 liked, paid me $5,000 and put it on the air. And that was my first success, writing that first opera and actually getting it onto Channel 13. I marvel at it. I can't believe that it actually happened, but I did it. With that $5,000, I eventually bought a car, and I got in that car and I drove across the country by myself. And then I started hooking up with bands, and then it took off from there. So that's that story.
Great. So a little bit of
Crazy.
talent, a little bit of luck, and also pursuing your interest and your love of music.
I was always
Mhm.
I was always creating and inventing. Inventing
Yes.
is another thing that I did. And so I was really the first person to have a home 4-track recording studio. No one else in the world had it, except if you were in a big recording studio where you paid a lot of money. And I had it at home in my basement. And it was crazy.
Yes. And I imagine you traveled, and I have seen that as well. You started to work in Las Vegas as well, correct?
Yes.
Yeah. So tell me about it, because there are big casinos, big stars, many stars. Sometimes they launch their career in Vegas, or they go back to Vegas after work in cinema, television, Broadway in New York. So tell me about this experience.
Okay, sure. Well, I wrote Red Hook. I'll jump ahead. And I wrote Red Hook, rock opera, which is about it. Let's say it's a combination of Romeo and Juliet meets the X-Files. You know what I mean? And so it was about Red Hook in Brooklyn and the gangs and the gang wars and all of this. So, Sherif, let me tell you this. First of all, everything that I had to do by myself. I did it alone. If I needed help, yes, I would get people to come in, but that's another story in itself. What happened to me, why I turned into such a singular reclusive person when I was such a leader and social being. That's what I was until around 12 years old when this priest got a hold of me. I don't know if you want to talk about that, but it was totally abused by a priest, which changed me completely from being so extroverted and taking everything from outside to sitting in my bedroom just playing my guitar by myself and figuring out how I could do everything alone. And so that was pretty traumatic, and it took a toll on my life. It made me a different person. In any case, so Red Hook came, and I knew that if I wanted to produce Red Hook, I would have to, hire actors and all of that. But before I did any of that, I recorded it in my studio. At this point, there was home recording studios. And so I built myself a home recording studio, and I recorded Red Hook by myself, played all the instruments, sang all the parts, put it all together. Then I hired actors through Backstage magazine, did the auditions myself, hired my people who would help me coordinate the choreographer and, the stage hands and all this other stuff. But believe me, Sherif, when I tell you, I built the sets, I did, because it was Red Hook, I don't know if this is making sense. I actually hired a graffiti artist from Red Hook, a very well-known graffiti guy who was, putting his stuff all over the walls over there. I hired him. Very nice guy. And I showed him what I wanted because I had all printed it out and drew it up, all the backgrounds. And he did it. I gave him all the paint and all the canvas, and he made these giant 50-foot backgrounds from Red Hook. And I hired a choreographer who was great. She was great, Abby Stonewall. She choreographed it. I directed it and told her how to choreograph it and told the actors what to do and how to do it. Anyway, put it all together and went and met the people who owned the Lambs Theater on Broadway. And I talked them into letting me put it on. Somehow, through some magic, they said, okay, you can put it on. And, and there was so many people in there, and they came in with these models and all this stuff that they wanted to put on the stage and all this. And all I did was go in there with drawings, some music, and talk to them. And I mesmerized them. They said, yes, put the show on. And so they put it on. And it was great. It ran really great. So that was on Broadway, and that was Red Hook. After that run, I then decided to move to Vegas. And I wrote Seduction. And I actually staged Seduction in New York, put it all together, took the whole cast to Vegas because I had this manager at the time who worked it out with one of the clubs, casinos in Vegas. This is an interesting story. It was a gentleman's club that they had on one side, and on the other side, they were building this big theater that they wanted to put shows on. And so my manager talked to them, told them all about it, and they said, yes, we want it. I put it all together in New York and took us all down there, right? We flew down there. I put them up in hotels because these guys gave me their word that everything would be great. And we go down there, and the theater isn't built yet. They don't have a sound system. They don't have anything. And all of these kids, right? They're all 20 years old, these kids. And, and I'm taking them away from home. I'm bringing them from New York, promising them stardom in Vegas, and they're all freaking out. Whatever. All right. Anyway, luckily, I met this woman who was the coordinator of entertainment for the Greek Isles Casino Hotel. And she said, let me see your show, right? So we went down to the Greek Isles, and we put the show on the stage, bare bones. There was nothing there, and it blew them away. So they said, yeah, we definitely want your show here. So they gave us the lighting. They gave us everything we need to put the show on, and we put it on there. And it ran there for about 2 months. And then the kids had to come back and all of that. So that was great. Then I took Seduction and I brought it back to New York, different cast, different choreographer, reworked it. And we ran it at the Gene Frankel Theater and the Jiraiya Theater. And I was trying to get backing to put it into Broadway because Broadway had changed. When I did Red Hook, I guess I caught it right at the tail end where they was still open to new and original stuff. And I'm telling you, in a few years, it turned to just remakes, and that's it. That's all they want. Remakes and, I don't know, but all the same old junk. So in order to put Seduction into a theater, you needed big, big money. They wanted at least $3 million in the bank, just there, just in case it failed. And that's not costing to put it on. And, in New York, you got all these unions and you got to hire all of these people. Forget about it. It's insane. If you manage to get a show on Broadway today and it's a success, you make a lot of money. But if it's not a success, forget about it. You're done. It costs you a fortune and you get nothing back. You lose a lot. So that was Red Hook and Seduction. And after I did that was when I wanted to make a movie. Now, I've been making videos my whole life. But right at that point, again, it seemed like I was able to slot it in because it was 2000, year 2000, when I made Forgotten Savior. I can't believe it's 25 years ago already, but time goes crazy. You let me know if I'm talking too much, Sherif. If you want to ask another question, just butt in, man.
No. I like to know about the movie. Then, especially, we'd like to talk about your writings and philosophy, etc. So, I like to know about the film production because we speak about the theater right now between Broadway and New York and Las Vegas. And let us know about the movie. How did you manage to put it on screen?
Okay, so I got inspired to make a movie. I wanted to do it, and of course, the first movie everyone makes is always about themselves. It's always that way. If you go through history, that's what it is. The first movie a director makes. But so I wrote the screenplay, and it was obviously all about my life up until that moment, that part. And I felt like I had something to say, so that was pushing me on to do it. And again, I had to do it alone. I did not, but through necessity, I started advertising for a cameraman, what I needed. And I found this great guy. He owned his own 16 millimeter camera. It's the same camera that Leaving Las Vegas was shot on. And at that time, that was acceptable, for theaters and stuff. And so he was great, and he loved the screenplay. And I said, okay, so I've got the cameraman. Let me start advertising for cast members. And that's what I did. And I started auditioning actors, actresses, for the roles that I had. And eventually I did that. I found them all. It was tedious, because when you're in New York and you're trying to find actors, boy, there's a million of them, and they're all wanted, and but out of so many wannabe people, to find it's almost sad, Sherif. It really is sad how many people think they have what it takes, and then when you audition them, it's just a sad situation, and that they just don't get it. But in any case, through the process, I did find the actors. Then I had to not only find the actors, then I had to find locations. And finding a location doesn't just mean going out and saying, oh, I want this block or this block, or I need this. You have to be able to have access, and you have to make sure that they're not going to sue you if something goes wrong. It's a long process, but luck was on my side. I found all the locations. All the people were only too willing to let me shoot in their houses, in their studios, wherever I need. They opened their arms and they welcomed me in. And so then I had the locations, I had the actors, and I had the cameraman. I hired a sound guy who was great, and a lighting guy, and that was it. And I said, let's do it. And we started doing it. Now, I'm not going to say there wasn't obstacles, because there was many obstacles doing it. But, in life, there's always obstacles. Just trying to get this interview to work was obstacles. You know what I mean? So you take one at a time, you solve it, and you move on. And once I had it finished, now this is interesting, because when I finished it, computers were just, becoming really prevalent, where they had the ability to edit. Now, I'm not saying I edited this film on a home computer, but I got to tell you this, right? You mentioned you're from Ecuador, right? And you're in Ecuador. One of my good friends is in the movie. He was the limo driver in the movie. When you watch it, Hugo. And he actually owned a limo company. And he would drive the band around and drive me around and everything. He was a great guy. I loved him. And so he wanted to be in the movie. I said, yeah, I want you in the movie. We're gonna do it. And I think I lost my train of thought. I started thinking about Ecuador and stuff. But in any case, yeah, he was a great guy. And what was I saying before that?
Yes, we were
I must be
speaking.
getting old.
No. We were speaking about the editing, the editing. How did you edit the film?
Oh yeah, right. Of course. So he at Hugo. That's how it got onto Hugo. Hugo had a connection to get me this Mac, Power Mac, that could do pretty much the edit decision list for me and put all the film into it and figure out the edits. So that's how Hugo came into that part of it. And in any case, I brought that computer home, set it all up, and I put all the footage, had it transferred onto tape and put it into this computer, and meticulously went through each thing and picked out each edit that I wanted. And from that, I wrote up the edit decision list, from here to here to here to here. You understand, right? And then I took that edit decision list to another person that I knew who owned an Avid editor company. He had a big Avid editor computer machine. And we put all my music, I wrote all the background music. We put all the music into it. We put the edit decision list into it. And we edited it up. And it came out. Now, at the same time, just as we finished, also, I don't know if you remember, there were distribution companies that were around at that time. Not like today with Amazon. It was Tapeworm distribution, and then there was, also Blockbuster, and all of this. And they wanted. So here's what happened. I took it, and I just started making phone calls to everyone that handled film back then. And they said, send it to me. Send it. We'll look at it. I sent it. They loved it. And they handled it. So I had Tapeworm distribution. It was in Blockbuster. From that, it was entered into the New York Independent Film Festival. And it won Best Screenplay for that year, 2000 it was. I still can't believe it, 25 years ago, but in any case. And they played it at the Tribeca Theater, Robert De Niro's theater. He was there. A bunch of people, a bunch of known names were there. Plus, I gave a speech. We had the whole cast there, and it ran there, and it was successful, and it won there. And then after that, I let them distribute it, and it was distributed. Eventually, it went to Amazon, and now it's available on Amazon. All of this stuff you can get, if you go to my website, caesarsmind.com, it's all there. You just see the menu. It's all right there. You can click on everything from music, theater, film, television. I had a good television show called Dreamcatcher, which again, I did the same. It's all the same. You hire the actors, you you write it, hire the actors, you put it all together, you film it. And then I went to the Sci-Fi Channel and I sold it to them. And they loved it. And I think it ran for a couple of episodes, but then it didn't work out with us. Something like that. I think they wanted to change it up and do something different. And I just said, forget about it, and I've been thinking about reworking it because there's so much reality TV today. This would be a great hit. But in any case, we'll see what I do with that later on.
Okay, Caesar, right now I want to know you ventured in cinema and theater production, musicals, and I think also during all these years, you've been a very good guitar player, not only, Spanish guitar you practice, but bass guitar and since you composed the rock opera, right? Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
yeah,
I'm
yeah. Go ahead, please.
having a little trouble hearing you.
Yeah,
It's
I,
okay.
it's okay. Yes, what I was telling you about, you became a professional guitar player, after you practice at your own childhood, and I think you became a very good rock and roll and bass guitar player, and right?
Yes, guitar, right?
Yes, yes,
I play every instrument actually.
mhm,
I play not every instrument, but I play guitar, keyboards,
keyboards.
drums,
Mm-hmm.
everything that's necessary. And
Yeah,
then, of course, with today, uh, MIDI and everything, I'm able to uh, play all the stringed instruments from an orchestra, and I don't just I write each individual instrument
yes,
and set it down to its own track. So where you have violins playing, they have now where you're able to play chords and the violins will play. Okay, sometimes that's appropriate, but a lot of times what I do in my music is I'll play the violin separately, the cello, and the oboe, and each instrument that I desire in that piece separately. So it gives it distinction and a unique, yeah, unique. That's a good word. Distinction and a unique uh, quality that makes it more real and not so much MIDI. I don't know if you understand that, but most people who are musicians understand what MIDI is. In any case, so I try to keep it as real as possible, even with the drums. I'll play the drums, not just put them in and then quantize them to be perfect. I do a repeat drum pattern. The drums as if it's going through the entire song. Okay, so
yes.
that's enough of that. What do you want?
Great. But tell me, Caesar, what did you, because already you wrote your musicals and your own movie and directed it and co-edited until it right now it is on Amazon. And what made you venture
Yes.
into writing your own books right now? And tell me about the topics because I've seen that you tackled spiritual and reinterpretation of the religious texts in your book. So tell me about this as well.
Yeah. Okay. So I uh, I was brought up in a pretty religious family. My father was the accountant for the church in Brooklyn, and my mother was a Eucharistic minister who taught religion in the school there. And I went to Catholic school, right? And I actually became an altar boy. I felt it in me, I believed. And I believed in God, and I believed truly in goodness that they were teaching us. And then, like I said, this priest who was in charge of the altar boys, he pretty much got a hold of me and abused me. My mother saved my life. She really did. In any case, she got him away. But back in those days, the priest was everything. He would show up at the house at night, and my mother would let him in and come up to my bedroom because how could she not believe that this priest had good intentions or what was going nobody thought of things like that back then. All right, then one day I'll never forget, the doorbell rings, it's the night, and I could tell it's probably him. I'm shaking, I'm at the top of the stairs, and I hear my mother say to him, "What are you doing here at this time of the night?" He's already upstairs. Forget about it. You're not coming in. And it was like the biggest relief in my life. And I'll never forget it. My mother saved me right at that moment. And I mean, there's a lot that goes on into that. But in any case, spirituality was always in me. But here's where it really begins. Now, what I'm going to tell you is going to be a little hard to believe, but I want you to trust what I'm telling you is absolute truth. I remember being born. I remember before being born. So when I tell you these things, and people say, yes, we have a soul, but they don't really believe, or they might want to believe, but they don't know. Nobody really knows if you're going to live after death. But I'm telling you, I do know. I remember, clear as a bell. I'll never forget this. Sherif, it's unbelievable, but I remember being in this void. It's what I could call it. And it was as if beings of light. It was just, whew. And in that second, you knew everything about them, and it would be like this. These, what I would call souls. And this is where I was. And this was happening. And then all of a sudden, I was alone. All of these beings of light stopped. And I knew something changed. What's different? Now I'm alone. And then I felt this vibration. And it built. It was like, and all of a sudden went, and in that instant, I was in this confined place like this, crunched into this confined place. Obviously, I was put into the womb. I remember that, Sherif. I remember that as if I remember talking to you 10 minutes ago. Clear as a bell. And if I can also tell you that I remember practically every second of my life. Most people don't, but I remember every age, everything that happened to me all the way through. And my mind hasn't deteriorated at all. It's as clear now as it ever was, and I'm getting old. So, how the feeling is, you wonder if it's going to keep being that way. But in any case, so taking from that understanding of what happened to me, knowing that there is something that I existed before, I exist now, and I will exist after, because astral traveling. Now, I don't know how many people have experienced what I experienced, the birth sequence of my life, but there must be somebody else on the planet who remembers that, but refuses to believe it's true. They probably think it's like a fantasy they made up in their head. But in any case,
I,
from
I
that,
want I want to mention to you, you mentioned the X-Files. I was a big fan of the X-Files, and before that I saw the Twilight Zone,
right?
and I'm Egyptian, by the way, but I live in Ecuador. So I believe what you tried to explain, because I think, of course, you have read about pharaohs and Egypt and the pyramids, and I took my wife to the Valley of the Kings in Luxor, and how
Ah,
Egyptians believed in reincarnation and resurrection. That's why they mummify their kings and queens. So this is something, an ancient science, okay? And even
mm-hmm.
I think you know the information about Tesla, who believed that the pyramids used to generate electricity, and the
Right,
pharaohs
right.
discovered electricity before himself and before Thomas Edison. Okay, so this is something. The other thing, that if you see the Twilight Zone and the Outer Limits, the classics, especially I love them, the black and white, and the X-Files, you know, and there was a very good film, it was made in 1970 something, and in a television movie, and I saw it when I was a child, maybe in the 80s. It arrived very late in Egypt. It was an afternoon, so they put some stuff in the afternoon, and I wrote about it an article. It starred Lloyd Bridges, you know, and
Uh-huh.
the father of Jeff Bridges and Bob Bridges,
Yeah.
and
Sea Hunt.
yes, and this movie, yeah, yeah, the American president from Hot Shots,
Right.
so this movie, it was about a man who doesn't know he's living a dream or not. Okay, it's
Mhm.
called Deadly
I
Dream.
don't think I saw that. Yeah.
I wrote about it in an article as well, because it's not a very famous movie, but in the 70s, and I think we believe we are the Sims generation, they used to produce very beautiful television films, like Movie of
Hmm.
the Week and Mystery Movie, and this kind of stuff. And this movie was
Right.
special because this guy used to have like a parallel life, but he doesn't know where is the dream and where is the real life, and the
Mm,
two lives interfere with each other,
I see.
and it
Hmm.
co-starred with him, Janet Leigh, who was the lead in Hitchcock Psycho, and she was in
Hmm.
Manchurian Candidate, the mother of Jamie Lee Curtis, you know.
Yeah, Janet Leigh. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
sure.
So for me, this movie, it's not available, by the way. Maybe old VHS tape. It's not available on DVD because it was not a feature film to be restored and everything. So
I
I
see.
believe you when you say you have a recollection of your birth and a very discrete moment of your life, like it happened yesterday or today in the morning.
Hmm.
So how did you what was your process to reflect this in your writings, in your book? How did you approach all these thoughts and feelings, and you put them in a text?
Well, it all stems from leaving my body.
Mm-hmm.
Now, this is the proof that I try to instill into everyone that I meet who's interested, uh, that it's it's the actual proof that we possess a soul. Okay. Now, if everyone was able to project themselves, travel, astral project, then everyone would, in this entire planet, would realize that we are all the same, that there is no need for war or anything. You would be complete within yourself and understanding that we are something more than just this physical, greedy, needy beings that have no aim or don't realize that they or actually think that what they're doing really has no purpose. So they're running like crazy to do whatever they can to amass money or fame to leave it behind as something to be remembered by. But if you can prove that the soul is real and that you will continue on, then all of a sudden everything changes. You're not so worried about being able to leave something that other people might think you're great or this, and you won't be pushing your ideas onto people in ways that what is happening or this is the way we should run things. I'm getting on tangents, but in any case, what my point is and why I wrote "You Can Fly" a step-by-step guide to astral projection and movement is because that is the basic instruction manual to give you the proof that you do have a soul. So I gave a step-by-step instruction. This is how you do it. It's kind of weird, but here's the other thing. Everyone at some point in their life has an experience, an out-of-body experience. Everyone. What I'm about to say might sound a little trite or weird or whatever, but when you're a child, leaving your body is as natural as walking. And the proof of that is most kids will urinate in their bed at some point. Everybody's done it. Now, why do they do that? Well, most times it's because they swear they got up and went to the bathroom. And all of a sudden, they're wet in the bed, right? You would swear, I got up, I went to the bathroom. Ma, I went to the bathroom. You know what I mean? That is a proof that you actually left your body. You didn't know it. You left your body. You went to the toilet. You went to the bathroom. And then all of a sudden you woke yourself up realizing that you didn't. Okay. So that is the simplest proof that I can give you that we can do this. And I have been able to do it naturally ever since birth. I mean, I've just, it was natural to me as breathing air. I would just leave my body. Now, what happens is it's from there are many different steps in what you're able to do out of your body, but you are tethered to your body. Your soul is tethered to your body, and it only becomes uncoupled at death. Okay, that's when you leave this plane of existence and go into the next realm. Okay, I you know what I'm saying, Sherif, is it's probably hard for a lot of people to believe, but if they really are interested, they could get the book, and if you follow the book as I've written it, step by step, and the most important thing is patience. Because the older you get, the harder it is to do, because your mind is filled with so many outside interferences that in order to focus enough to release your soul takes a lot of patience, a lot of practice, but everybody can do it. And if everybody does it, all of a sudden you'd have peace on earth. Everybody would love each other. Everybody know that there's something beyond this. And I think that's what holds us all back is the unknowing.
Mm-hmm. But you think you like to adapt your book into a movie or a television show in the future?
Well, not that book, but you know
Mm-hmm.
which one I really have been thinking about
Mm-hmm.
is Genesis.
Mm-hmm.
Now, here's my understanding of what religion is and what we believe on this planet. I'll tell you this right now, all the religions are basically correct up to a point. When you say that Jesus is the Son of God, okay, that is such a firmament statement that it makes people cringe or believe. You know, you either and it takes faith. You have to have faith in order to believe that. But I can give you proof that this is a correct statement, because who is God? You have to ask that question. Who is God? Now, God that we know, that we believe in, is a physical being. You have to understand that this universe, everything in this universe is physical. We exist in a physical realm, the universe. Everything in this universe is finite. These scientists try and tell you that the universe is infinite, but it isn't. It's finite because everything is finite in this universe. What they don't understand is the universe transforms into a different dimension, the outer dimension of where your soul and where the creator is. And so they don't realize, they say it's infinite, but it isn't. The universe stops and then it transforms, giving the impression it's infinite, but it isn't, because everything in this universe is born, lives, dies, has to eat, and die. You know, that's
Yeah,
it. That's
has a
what we are.
cycle, has a life cycle.
That's it.
Yes,
And
and
nothing lasts
yeah,
forever.
because I study some of the theory of relativity and quantum mechanics, you
Right,
know, and many scientists they believe yeah, that the universe is expanding all the time, like a
right, right,
elastic. And of course, others, they think there are many universes, like parallel universes,
right, right.
similar universes, you know.
Mhm.
So yeah,
Which is all okay. That
mhm,
could be, but that isn't what we should be concerned about. What we should be concerned about is our lives within this universe, living. We and when I tell you that the universe is infinite, okay, that's it. It's infinite. This is what we are. No matter, you get in the best spaceship and you keep traveling, you're going to stay in this universe. You're never going to reach the end, because the transference from the physical to the astral realm is an impossibility until you leave your life
yeah,
behind, your
your
body.
body.
But
Yes.
here's what I was getting at. Let me say this. God, who is God? Okay, now this is important. God, our God, like it says in the Bible, I will be your God. Oh, okay. God is another being, an alien superior to us. Now I'm gonna say this as simply as possible. Who created us using their own DNA cloning? They cloned us, right? And then it was an experiment. They put us into an experimental garden to observe us. And here's where it comes in, that it's not so different than who we are. There was jealousy. The doctors who created these beings were one set of doctors. Then there was other doctors who became jealous, right? And corrupted the experiment in the garden. Okay? And because they corrupted it, they were cast out. And because these two beings that were created had failed the basic test that the creators were trying to get them to do, they said, okay, well, we're not going to just kill them. We're going to transfer them to another planet. Now, if you read in the Bible, it said Adam and Eve was put onto a flaming sword. What's a flaming sword?
Mm.
It's a rocket ship.
No, yes, a spaceship or something like. Mhm.
It's a rocket ship. It's a rocket ship. It's a sword with a flame at the end of it. They shoot them out. I mean, but you have to realize that the Bible was written, or I go by the first 5 books, okay? Was written by a man who knew nothing, didn't know anything, okay? Knew rocks, earth, and whatever. So if something is presented to him from another, from an alien creation, it's God. When this alien is saying, "I am your God," that's exactly what they mean. I am your God. But they are not God who created everything. Okay? They are just another planet with superior beings who put us here on this planet. Other proof is why is there so many different races on this planet? How is that possible? It is impossible. It is impossible without outside interference. Okay? You can't put two people who are the same and all of a sudden have 20 different variations. It just won't happen. It can't happen. Okay? So there had to be other interference, other beings put in. And you know, in my book, I can tell you where and when it happened just by reading the Bible as if it's a history book, and in your mind, reading it as if it was back then compared to what we could do today.
Yeah.
And there is nothing in the Bible that we cannot replicate.
Mm-hmm.
The Virgin Mary, how did she become pregnant? Okay, a lot of people don't believe it, but we do it every day. We take women and impregnate them. They don't need to be coupling with a man.
Yes.
Okay? It's artificial insemination. We do it every day. And even in the Bible, when Abraham, right? Abraham was if I'm getting off too much track, but in any case, you know, Abraham was married to Sarai, right? Sarai was too old to have kids. So these angels are another thing. Why do they always depict angels with wings?
Mm-hmm.
Right? Think about it.
Mm-hmm.
Because they come down, they fly down from a ship. So it's you know, I mean, you got to realize these things. But in any case, you think I'm crazy about this, going on too much
No,
about it?
not at all. Not at all. You know, because what I hear you, you know, I heard it before, and you know, in other, see it and read it in other movies, in science and science fictions and everything. So it's not strange for me. And many writers try to depict this, you know, to like yourself,
Mhm.
to reinterpret and trying to make what you know, the verses in the Bible, you know, more down to earth to people to understand it better. But right now, Caesar,
Right.
I want to know from you, do you plan other projects right now?
Well, I just completed a new album,
Uh-huh.
Wages of War,
Mm-hmm.
and of course, I wrote all the songs, played all the music, sang all the parts.
Right.
I think it's a great album,
Mm-hmm.
Wages of War,
When it will
and
be released?
I,
It will be released
it's
what?
available now
Mm-hmm.
on Spotify
On
and
Spotify.
all online stores.
Great.
You can download it, and you can actually get physical copies through Trepstar CD. If you like, again, if you go to my website, caesarsmind.com,
Mm-hmm.
everything is there. You can find everything and how to get everything. But yeah, Wages of War, I just finished, and uh, I've already written 15 of the new songs for the next album.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, Meanwhile, you know, to promote this album, I just released the first video single, One in One.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, you know, I filmed it myself. I edited it myself. You know,
Yes.
I did everything. myself, and
Great.
I like the way it came out. In the previous album, Suspension of Disbelief, I had the video Success, which I used AI and turned it into a cartoon,
Mm-hmm.
which came out really nice. I really liked the way that one came out. But back to Wages of War, the second video I'm going to do very soon is Middle America, the song called Middle America. And I'm thinking right now it's coming together in my mind on how I'm going to shoot it. I have an idea. I don't know if I want to share the idea right away, but very
Yeah,
soon I'll start shooting that. And that's my very next thing.
great.
As far as Genesis, I want to turn it into a screenplay.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'm thinking of, I'll obviously send it out to a few production companies and see if I get any bites, and possibly turn that into a film. The thing is, though, the Genesis would take a lot of production to
Yes,
make
I
it the way I
imagine.
see it.
I imagine like
Yeah,
sets and special effects and you
yeah,
know, yeah, yeah. It
it
needs
would
a
take
lot
a
of
lot.
visual, interpretation. Okay,
Right.
because we run out of time, I want to thank you very much, Caesar,
Oh,
for this lovely live with you. And I hope we did a very good, recollection of your memories and your work as a musician and filmmaker and book author. And I congratulate you as well on your books, on your current album. And I wish you all the best in the process of writing your book
thank you so
into a
much, Sherif.
screenplay. It's very good that you will write it yourself, to have all the ideas, reflected in the book into the screenplay. And I hope you can invite us to the premiere when the movie is coming up.
You bet. I surely would. You're the best, Sharif.
Thank you
Thank
very
you
much,
very
sir.
much.
You
And it was a
appreciate.
lot of fun.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate your time. Okay. Thank you, sir.
Bye.
Bye.